So this is All American 98, where we had a cowboy hat. Carabeth and I are all over the news as the disrespectful snowboarders. I don't know what spies they kind of put around there. My Sunflower board sold more than any other board in the Sims line, more than Sean Palmer's, Noah Selaznik's. This thing's gnarly. Selema Masakela and Tim Schwartz, they're like peeking over the fence, checking out what's going on over there.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He's no one, she's no one, we're no one.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Well, welcome to Nemo's Co-Pro podcast, podcast where we talk to interesting, creative people and athletes and people have done interesting things in culture. I'm Jennifer Sherowski. I'm a creative director here at Nemo World headquarters, and I'm with Shannon Dunn-Downing, legendary snowboarder, icon of the sport and culture. You are an Olympic medalist, but not just any Olympic medalist. You medaled at the very first snowboard halfpipe ever for the Olympics, and that was back in '98 in Nagano. You also were on the forefront of creating a lot of women-specific product for us, by us. So welcome, Shannon.
Thank you for having me. I'm so stoked to be here.
Yeah. We were just talking about the Olympics, so let's talk about it. It just happened a couple weeks ago. Did you watch?
I did. I watched. Things have changed a lot. As far as like watching the programs, you have, it's not, you just click on the TV, you have to like subscribe or whatever. So that has its pluses and minuses, but it was fun to watch. I was really stoked on the surfing and the big waves at Chopu. That was particularly like the one day. So that was pretty cool. Then I got like the highlights, my son said, "Did you watch the Boyoing guy?" the pole vaulter guy. I was like, that's your takeaway from the Olympics? Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch the like memification of the Olympics this time around. You're like,
yeah, totally. So that's been fun. But yeah, of course, I love watching the Olympics.
Well,
It's great.
how was it? I mean, I guess, how was it watching it, knowing, you've been there? Maybe let's just go back and tell us a little bit about your experience in '98 in Japan and what it was like to not only be an Olympian, which is, obviously a lot of athletes talk about as a highlight of their career, but also you were a first, you were a first medaler. Talk about the experience.
Yeah, so 1998, well, right before 98 when we first heard that snowboarding would be in the Olympics, it was this big controversy. And of course, Terrier decides not to go. So then the big topic was like, are you a sellout if you even try out for the Olympics?
What a 90s conversation.
Don't be a sellout, like you're going to the Olympics, it's going to sell out the sport. And it's definitely, it was a thought for sure. And it was a thought of every snowboarder. And we didn't know how it was going to play out. So it's like, if Shannon Dunn didn't go to the Olympics or didn't even attempt to go like Terrier, I don't think anyone would have cared. So I decided I'm just going to go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know about that, but.
Well, anyway, I just didn't think it had the same power. And anyways, I feel like everything's politicized. So my job as an athlete is to do my sport and take it wherever I can, I felt like. So my perspective was I'm going to try out for the Olympics. If I make it, I'm going to experience what the Olympics is all about. Of course, like as a child, like that was the pinnacle of sport. And so I grew up watching gymnastics and figure skating, and those were my heroes. And those inspired me to become an athlete. And once I discovered snowboarding and I knew that I could possibly make a career out of it, like, deep down, it's like I dreamed as a little girl to be an athlete, like gymnastics or figure skating or something like that. So to go to the Olympics was like, whoa, I'm going to see what this is all about. So it was pretty cool.
What was it all about when you got there?
Arrived. Do you want, I don't know if this is going to offend someone.
lay it all, safe space.
But I kind of have to this is kind of part of the story. So I'm going to bring up Carabeth Burnside. Mm-hmm. Carabeth and I are like, you look at us both as athletes. So there were 4 of us girls. it was Michelle Taggart, Barrett Christie, Care-Beth Burnside, and myself going for halfpipe. And then for the men's, it was Todd Richards, Ross Powers, and the dark horse. Can't remember his name right now. That's how dark of a horse he is. He was kind of out of nowhere. I'll think of the name.
We'll look it up.
Sorry, that's so bad. He kind of like made the Olympics and disappeared right after that too. But anyway, 3 guys, 4 girls. You know, and Care-Beth and I, like, you look at us on the outside perspective, it would be like me, the cheerleader type. Even though I was never a cheerleader, never would ever do that. No, I'm just kidding. But Care-Beth Burnside's like this hardcore skater girl. Awesome. I totally got along with Care-Beth, but our personalities were kind of different, you know? So anyway, I'm bringing her up, and I'm going to go full circle with this story because it's kind of funny, I think. But anyway, so, you know, we're celebrating on the airplane. The stewardess is giving us like glasses of champagne. I have 1 glass of champagne, and we cheers. Woo! Care-Beth keeps drinking. So by the time we get to Japan, and this is like, you know, we had just qualified, like done multiple qualifications. Everyone's stressing because no one knew where we were going to come out in this qualification, if we were going to qualify for Olympics or not. So we finally get there. We're on the airplane, you know, and Care-Beth just keeps partying away, and the rest of us fall asleep, take a nap, whatever. So we arrive, and everybody gets out of their seat to walk away, and Care-Beth like turns and goes like the opposite direction to the back of the plane. I'm like, okay, Care-Beth, we have to go this way, and she's kind of definitely out of it. You know, is this your passport, Care-Beth? So I'm taking care of her. Meanwhile, everyone had left the airplane. Is this your bag, Care-Beth? Whatever. So I'm taking care of her. And you get shuttled into, like, you have to get right off the plane into getting your credential. You get your 70 pieces of clothing, your bag.
Your beret.
No, that was 2002.
I feel like there's always berets.
Your cowboy hat.
That was the one. Oh, it was a cowboy hat.
So this was All American 98, where we had a cowboy hat and, like, kind of ugly outfits, by the way. So anyway, we get the credentials, and we take our photo, and everyone's got hat head, and it's like the worst possible time you could take a photo right off the plane. We're jet lagged, we're so tired. And I'm helping Care-Beth just weave, like, she's not doing great, you know, she's very tipsy. And so I'm helping her get all of her gear, put it away. And side note, you get your like Olympic medal outfit at the check-in, and it's packed in a special carry-on like wheelie bag. And so that was kind of eerie, like you're packing up your possible medal outfit.
Outfit possibility.
Yeah, and it just immediately triggers your brain to wonder, like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to wear this? So that's like a thought. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward with Care-Beth and I, because we ended up being roommates, and we're just both like, oh my gosh, you know, like I could be roommates with Michelle, Barrett, but CB and I were like,
she was raging.
I'm not the rager. Anyway, our personalities, we think, are totally opposite. So anyway, but it ended up being hilarious because her and I just connected on like the quirky things about the Olympics. And so her and I were like, you know, these outfits are hideous. We refuse to wear them to breakfast the next morning. And this is like, am I making sense? I'm kind of skipping around a lot.
I always wonder about the outfits and what the expectation is. Do you have to wear them?
Yeah, you do. So, and this is a big deal. I didn't know. So we're coming in as pro snowboarders. You know, that was like the big thing about the FIS. You're going to tell us what to wear. You know, and the FIS is like Federation of International Ski organization versus the International Snowboard Federation. That was like the big bummer that a snowboard federation wasn't going to oversee the Olympics. So anyway, we are run by FIS. So it's like, oh, well, they're going to make us wear outfits, and that was a big deal. We don't wear people's outfits. We don't do anything. We're the rebels of the sport. People hate us, and they're going to keep hating us because we don't like the stuff anyway, and so we're going to keep being rebellious. Well, at least Care-Beth and I thought that. So we didn't want to wear those outfits first thing to breakfast the next day. Because you have a team manager at the Olympics, and the team manager said, we need you to wear these certain outfits. So we refused, and we didn't tell her we refused. We just showed up not wearing the outfits. And the team manager, really nicely, she's super nice, was like, you girls, you have to wear your outfits. You're no longer, you're not pro snowboarders. You're not like international pro snowboarders anymore. You are U.S. Olympic athletes. So you guys need to wear the Olympic athlete. Look at every sport here is wearing the same outfit. And we're like, can we just do that after breakfast? Like, we're here. We don't want to go all the way back to the hotel room, change and everything. She's like, I'm sorry, you have to. So we did. And of course, like, no big deal. Well, I talked to my mom that night or the next day. And my mom said, Care Beth and I are all over the news as the disrespectful snowboarders that didn't want to wear the outfits. And so I don't know what spies they kind of put around there, but we weren't. They're embedded. There wasn't any.
So
it
leaked to the press.
It did
that
leak.
You weren't wearing your outfits at breakfast.
And I don't literally know how that happened, because they must have spies. I mean, we weren't loud. We were at our own little table. It's really
Wild.
funny. And so she's like, you're all over the news. And I have those articles. That's kind of funny.
Amazing. I think that's so interesting. One thing that really strikes me when I watch the Olympics now is, like, you can see the way they've really, like, taken it to heart that, like, hey, athletes, we want a choice. We want to be able to, like, at least choose some things about our outfits. And, like, watching the skating, for instance, it's like all the, the men and women on the team were kind of wearing different things. You know, they were all approved, obviously, but
I definitely noticed that and thought that was cool. And I also think skateboarding came to the Olympics at the perfect time for them, because it's a very respectable sport in the Olympics, I feel like. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. And it brings a lot of eyes and energy to the Olympics.
Yeah.
That is needed, for sure.
And I wonder, I mean, I literally can't imagine if they were going to think about having skateboarding in the Olympics when snowboarding came on the scene. And I think they would have been like, no way. I think it would have been the same kind of attitude as the industry and snowboarding had. Like, no way, we're too, like, hardcore. This is going to ruin our sport. But it's cool to see skateboarding and surfing now in the Olympics. I think it's well represented for action sports, and it's pro. And when I watch snowboarding now, it's so pro, it's so professional. It's the snowboarders, skaters, surfers are just like any other athlete would be, as far as what the perception is to the public and to the media. When I was there, it was just shunned. The media just... I feel
like it was very stereotyped, and maybe the breakdancers are experiencing a little bit of that now, because I don't think the mainstream really understands subcultures very well. True. And coming from, I worked at an endemic snowboard magazine at the time, I guess I wasn't quite there yet, but I was a snowboarder. So watching the Olympics from the inside in '98, it really felt like it was stereotyped, and it's like the Ross Rabigliotti, getting tested positive for weed, and all of the way the mainstream talked about us felt we didn't like it. We kind of bristled against it a little bit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, everyone was kind of like tiptoeing around our sport because they didn't really understand it, I don't think, at the time, and they were they didn't want to, like, put it all in the media and then maybe not have it well received. So I think they kind of backed off. And then when the controversial things came out, like the Ross Rabagalati weed thing, they're
just waiting for a story like that.
And so racing came before the halfpipe. So that was like a big hype before halfpipe for snowboarding. The event.
The halfpipe, yeah.
And so to me, that was kind of a bummer, because racing, wasn't that cool?
Yeah, I mean, the big show's halfpipe.
Yeah,
Let's
you know,
be real.
freestyle snowboarding is where it's at. And they didn't have slope style at that time. You know, slope style came in, and I think in Vancouver, maybe, but I'm not sure. But later on.
Yeah. Well, let's go even further back because, you know, we first met, I don't remember the year, but we were little babies and we met, I remember on a trip to the Alps for Sims. And, you know, I think maybe I was 15 or something. We were both teenagers and we got like thrown in a van with Noah Selaznick and Sean Palmer, who are huge personalities. And it just, there's so many memories from that trip, and like what a time to be in a sport and culture that's new. And like I feel so grateful for being able to like experience that. So just talk a little bit about like that time and what it was like to be in something new.
Yeah, snowboarding was brand new, and you know, coming up into the sport, I wasn't sure if it was going to lead to a career. So I was going to college at the same time, and then, you know, I had to make a decision like, am I going to pursue snowboarding, or am I going to just bail on that and go to college and finish college? And I chose obviously snowboarding. I think that was a great choice at the time, because what fun, what a amazing, just amazing experiences and personalities. And yeah, Sean Palmer and, you know, Sean and the bad boys of snowboarding were portrayed as these like what they were, but it was kind of like glamorized. So then when you really experienced them in person, it was different being a girl, because you're just like, whoa, these celebrity snowboarder dudes are kind of out of hand, and it's crazy what they're getting away with. And I was like, whoa, I'd never seen people just kind of be out of hand, like, you know, in Japan, like doing all these crazy things and getting kicked out of the hotel, or maybe even getting kicked out of the country and stuff like that. So that was kind of definitely entertaining. And then what phenomenal athletes these guys were, and personalities to just change the entire sport, to just have this big, crazy, cool personality. Like no one could touch them, and they changed culture, I really believe. And we all did. Whoever was involved in snowboarding, you know, in the early 90s, I think we changed culture, like clothes and everything was just evolving so fast that things were making an impact on our culture in the world. Like Vogue magazine would highlight like the big baggy pant look, and it kind of changed things, I think. And we were really alongside like skating, more skating than surfing, I would say. But all action sports were kind of like the big boom in the 90s, kind of feeding off each other. And then the media was feeding off of all of us collectively. So yeah, I think when that trip to Europe, I had a blown knee.
Yes, that rings. Yeah. I remember
And
that.
I just was coming out with the Sunflower board, which is the first women's pro. I'm going to say it's the first women's pro model. It came out at the same time Tina Bassich's pro model came out too. But the Sunflower board really was very impactful, and I can let you in on.
Yeah,
how that kinda
I
came to
remember
be.
riding that board, that Sunflower deck, dropped on the scene at the height, as you said, of like big pants, fat stance, chain wallets, flannel shirts, and you know, you and I feel like Tina really, you played a huge role in saying like, hey, you know, we don't have to be about that if we don't want to be, and you really created an identity for women's snowboarding, because it didn't exist before. In a lot of ways, we were riding smaller men's boards. We were wearing, you know, like a smaller version of a men's jacket that, you know, whatever. So just talk a little bit about, I'm curious, was it very premeditated or thought through, or like, you know, I'm going to do something different. My board's going to have flowers on it. I'm going to do what I want to do, or were you just sort of more seat of the pants kind of?
Yeah, so Gayleen Nago was the creative marketing director at Sims at the time. And she approached me and asked if I wanted a pro model. And so pro model back in that day was like the pinnacle of your career. Basically, you know, if you were well respected, it's kind of like what it was in skateboarding. You know, if you're a well respected snowboarder, you get a pro model, and that was like a real big well respected kind of thing. So she approached me, and I was like, whoa,
So it was unexpected.
unexpected. And at that time I was winning kind of everything. I won a world title. I came into snowboarding kind of hot, and I started winning of contests a lot. And so her really good friend, Gayleen, is from Canada, and so her really good friend is still to this day Lisa Vincent Guerra, and Lisa had the very first official women's pro model with Checker Pig. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah. I remember Checker Pig.
Yeah, and that was a European company. And so her pro model came out in Europe. And so America didn't really hear about this. It wasn't well marketed. I don't think it sold that much out there. I don't think they marketed it that well, and it wasn't really the right timing, you know, for her board. But Gayleen had that in her head, like a women's pro model. This would be a great opportunity. I think she felt like the time is now. And so she approached me, and obviously I was like felt so honored. And yeah, I definitely want to be a part of that and do that. And she's like, we'll come up with a graphic. Well, right after she asked me about the pro model, I tore my ACL. So that's a pretty big injury. And that happened in the spring. And so I remember talking to her and just not wanting to tell her I was injured, because I didn't know. I never had.
You're like, can I still get the board?
Yeah, well, I didn't even know if I should. Like, maybe my career's done. I didn't even know what an ACL reconstruction would entail. Told her about it, and she's like, don't worry about it. You're going to come back. It's perfect timing. You're 9 more months. You'll be on the snow. We're going ahead with it. You're totally going to be fine. So she had so much confidence, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be fine. And I'm getting through this ACL surgery. Great. That was like my mentality. And so in the hospital room after my surgery, I came up with a graphic. And at that time, sunflowers were like the biggest thing, that was on trend.
Like outside the sport of snowboarding.
Yeah, it was sunflower perfume, and all the big magazines were highlighting sunflowers. It was just like a big trending look or thing, like sunflowers. And I would embroider like sunflowers on my jeans, and so I thought that would be so cool to have a sunflower graphic. And I just did the background bright red, and then I put 2 big sunflowers on the tip and tail, and just did you could see the graphic. I just drew that up quick in my hospital room, and I sent it to her. I came up with a base graphic also, like a little sun with the big S, which would be for Sims and also Shannon. I sent that to Gayleen. She's like, I love it. That's so perfect. And then she sent it to the art director or whatever, and they're like, hell no. This is too feminine, too bold. Let's try again. And Gayleen's like, I know you're not going to like this. Just give them the benefit of the doubt. They want to do some art. Can you just look at it? And so I looked at it. It was like this. I was like, I actually hate this graphic that they came up with.
What was it?
It was a hummingbird, which that's fine, but it was just all these like mauve kind of colors and real like dreary kind of, and
they're trying to tone it down
a notch. And so it was like mauve, but kind of like aqua and mauve, and like these big, I just didn't like the colors at all.
And it wasn't yours.
And it wasn't mine. And so I told her, I really don't like this graphic, and it doesn't represent my personality. So if that's the way we have to go, then I don't want a board, because it's just not going to feel right to me. And she's like, no, I'm going to get it. I agree with you. We're going to do it. I'm going to make it happen. So she made that happen. Meanwhile, she didn't tell me all the backstory because 1, I'm injured. 2, she doesn't want to like put any negativity. That's just how Gayleen is. But I think 8 years ago, I didn't find what I'm going to tell you out about what she did. And I was like, thinking, Gayleen, you are incredible. So, and she didn't ever, I didn't even know about this. So, she, like on the company side of things, she was having meetings with Tom and the licensed
Tom
Sims, owner of the company, and the licensees from Japan and everything, and then the sales reps, and collectively they were like, I don't know if we're ready for a women's pro model. I don't think the market's gonna take it. And one guy, a couple reps were like, no, I don't think it's gonna sell. Like, I'm not gonna try and sell it. So Galen called the top kind of like retail shops and just asked if she could put these boards once they came out on consignment. And they're like, sure. And she's like, we'll just take them back if they don't sell.
Let's have a fallback plan.
Yeah. So she's like, it's no risk, but what I need you to do is put this board in the front. I want it to be highlighted, but if you don't sell them, no big deal. I'll take them back. So she called all the key retailers and got the okay for that. She wanted to have a new mold made for the board, so it was like its standalone shape. And the company people were like, no, it's too expensive. We're not going to risk it. What if they don't sell enough to pay for it, because the new mold is very expensive. So she's like, well, I'll tell you what, like, I'll put my own money on the line. If we don't sell enough, I'll personally pay for that. So that went through. They're like,
and you didn't know
I didn't know.
This.
And then she seeded like 100 boards and gave them out to just key people. So like full marketing grassroots plan. And then she just did a ton of PR. And then she did like this whole campaign, the first ever women's first ever women's pro model.
North American.
And she said she actually didn't do that slogan, but the advertisers picked up on like the first women. I think she put like something not first women's pro model, but something.
And they read what they wanted to read, and they're like,
they grabbed
story.
it and they put it as the first ever women's pro model.
The first one that went boom.
But it's true. It was the first one that went boom. Is there anything? I'm probably missing something else she did, but she just went all in, full. She was just confident that.
And she advocated for you, and she had vision, which is so powerful. I mean, there probably weren't that many women in marketing director positions in snowboarding. I mean, she might have been the only one.
Well,
possibly.
it was her and like Lisa Hudson.
Right.
Lisa Hudson was with, a clothing company. So that we ended up doing a women's brand with. But
Prom, correct?
Prom, yeah. So very few. And she really did a lot to push that board through. And, we used to go to trade shows, and that's where the big hype was for sales, product sales and everything. So this was in Las Vegas, the big SIA sports industry, whatever, SIA trade show. And I remember it was just like the talk about whole show was like my sunflower board selling. It was selling like hotcakes. Like, Shannon, I can't believe like it is going off. And then my the Burton team manager, Eric Koch, was like, Shan, like, this is nuts. Well, he didn't ask me then, but this is the thing. Like, this is what everyone is talking about. And that my sunflower board sold that more than any other board in the Sims line, more than Sean Palmer's, Noah Selaznik's, all their pro models. It blew out all of them. So it just really opened the doors to women's product. What
an incredible story.
Yeah, so Galen, thank you.
Yeah, Galen, you're the best. I mean,
it's kind of crazy.
Without her, you guys made such a great team, and if it was just one or the other of you on your own, it probably wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened. Oh, for sure, not me. I definitely didn't have the confidence to be like, hey guys, like, oh yeah, this is gonna work, and they wouldn't have believed me maybe anyway, but.
I'm curious from like the business perspective. I guess you're really just finding out a lot about this, but were they not, I mean, I guess they're, scared of change. It's risky, but like there was a women's market, obviously.
They didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nothing was proven.
researched or
Not
no
one
data.
product was out there to have known. And so what the sunflower board did is it proved to everyone in the whole industry that there was a women's market. I mean, even from a pure financial standpoint, you don't want to be missing out on that demographic. That's like a whole new like boom.
We know that half the people are women.
Yeah.
And just in the larger sense of the human population. So there's, you got to kind of make it and they'll come.
Yeah, so that was a big learning experience for me as a pro too. Like, oh, we have worth as a woman. Like, it gave us as women a lot of like confidence to kind of like approach sponsors then after that, and then even like contests, like we want equal prize money or suggest that, or we want to work with the magazines more, like, because there's
Equality.
a market. Yeah, well, there's a market. Equality, but like in sports and business, if you're not going to make money,
There's a financial market for it.
it doesn't matter. So if a woman's not going to bring in money, it's like money's going to talk. So let's approach it from a new standpoint. It's going to make you guys money, and we're here to make you guys money basically, and that's going to open up their ears. And if that's what it takes, I don't really care, because I want to do this sport because it's so fun, and I'm going to use that angle for sure, which, that's a pro athlete, whether you're a woman or a man or whoever you are. You're a business. And so I definitely learned that along the way.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about, you mentioned prom earlier, and I remember those ads so vividly. It also felt really different, and it felt so much like you and your personality and Shannon. And again, it was at a time when that just wasn't, we didn't have anything for us. So talk about what that was like to make apparel. I'm curious if you did any consumer research, or it was more just like, we want to make stuff that we like. Talk about that whole era.
Yeah, no research was happening at that time. But Lisa Hudson was the marketing director for this new clothing company called Swag. And that was basically a men's company. And she would give us clothing samples that were made in men's large. And we were just swimming in these clothes, and not only were they large, but men's large. And so she's like, we need to get you girls in some cute stuff. So I want you to come up. She said, I got the okay to create a new women's brand. I want you to name it and just come up with the designs, and I totally trust what you guys want to do. And so Tina and I sat down, and we just wrote a list of possible names, and we landed on prom. We just thought that was fun, feminine. We could do a lot with that creatively, and Lisa liked that. And then we just sat down with a pen and paper. Tina's really artistic, for one. She has a design background. So we would go to thrift stores, and we wanted kind of like maybe like a looser fit, so we were still snowboarders. We weren't like ski bunny. We didn't want to design ski bunny clothes like tight. So a little bit looser, but then the colors, we definitely wanted to have some femininity with that. And at the time there was nothing pink, so it was like, let's go for pink. Because that wasn't blown out. Years later it was like pink. We're sick of pink. I'm wearing pink, but
Boarding for breast cancer pink.
Anyhow, so we just had some fun designs that were unique too, like overalls, and we were like, that'd be cute to have, snowboard pants, a little baggier, but like our jean overalls, because that was kind of the style back then too. And we just found some fun clothes at the thrift store that were like, this would be a cute jacket or whatever. So we had fun designing. And then of course the ad campaign, we went to the thrift store and got 50s prom dresses. And then Lisa had the idea to totally get our hair and makeup totally done, made up, like over the top. And we're like, hardly wearing any makeup. So we're like, really? She's like, oh yeah, I got this makeup artist. And we're like, okay, we're just going with that. And then we just did these like real fun shots beside a pool, and it was fun. It was in Cardiff, California. And it was where I was renting a house. Well, in the backyard, Sal Salema Masakela and Tim Short. They're like peeking over the fence, checking out what's going on over there. So
What's this shoot all about?
So that was like way back in the day. Really a funny side note, but we had a lot of fun doing all those ads, and we did several ad campaigns, like totally made up in, hair and makeup, and then 50s bathing suits, and dressed in 50s clothes in a Tina's convertible Chevy car or whatever, like woo.
Yeah,
waving
just
and-
tons of style. What kind of reactions were you getting? Was there any negative reactions? What were some of the positive reactions you were getting?
We didn't hear any of the negatives, so I'm not sure about that. But everyone was kind of blown away. It was sort of shocking. There's these two like little snowboard girls are all done up in glam style. So I think it was fun, and I think we had a lot of positive reactions. It was just so different, so different. No one had ever done that where you're just okay. They were doing like girls with their boobs hanging out in their bra.
Sexualized.
Yeah, from the guy's end, but then this is more like fun, glam, girls dressing up, cute.
Yeah.
Kind of more like that.
Which is
instead of
really
sexy.
Really different. I think you bring up a good point. I feel like at that time there was, it's like there was a camp of like, hey, we're a lot of times you're the only girl in a group of men when you're snowboarding, or the only girl on a sponsorship, and I feel like there was an element of like we had to be tough or had to act tough or be like we're just like the men. And I feel like what you all did was kind of reclaim a little bit of like we can be ourselves yet still rip, and like you just kind of nailed the difference of like be objectified or like that's not us. We want to kind of claim our femininity for ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to do. Claim our femininity. That's a good way to put it. And I think at that point, so that was like, my pro model came out in 94, prom came out in 95, or at least we worked on it in 95. And during that time, we really, Tina and I'm saying we, but I think a lot of the girls, anyway, I'll just speak for myself. I think I realized that I wanted to really, and I'll say we too, because we wanted to grow women's snowboarding. And I felt like to do that, we needed to tap into the everyday girl. And the everyday girl at that time, was maybe scared to walk in a snowboard shop and maybe identified with looking more girly. And, styles and trends change, but, versus the core snowboard girl, they're already in it. They're already in the sport, and they're, more like maybe trying to fit in with the guys and being a little more hardcore. But that's not really the audience that I felt like would grow snowboarding. So I always kind of thought about that with my snowboard graphics. Continuing on, I ended up going to ride for Burton Snowboards. And so always with my graphic, I wanted more of the masses, the girl masses or whatever, to kind of identify with the graphics that I put out. And it's kind of like graphics that I relate to also, just a little more, not so serious, a little more colorful, bright and cheery, I guess. So I just thought that would relate more to more women and get them involved in the sport and feel like they're connected somehow.
That's cool. That's an interesting way to look at it. And it's really smart and progressive and innovative to even just be thinking when you're young and in a young sport to be like, how can we grow this? Like, well, hey, we can't just be making things for ourselves. That's part of it. But like, what is that, what is an everyday girl or woman, going to react to, and how can we like bring them in and make them feel, seen and heard and excited about it versus intimidated by it, which, let's face it, was probably pretty intimidating at the time.
Yeah, I think it was. And Yeah, I mean, I would walk into a snowboard shop and sometimes skate shops, for example, even today, it's like a little more intimidating if you aren't super part of the scene. So I always think it's great to somehow invite that. It's like you're creating an atmosphere or I don't know if it's the vibe or
Welcoming invitation.
invitation vibe for a girl. And as a girl, it seems real easy to do, but guys aren't really thinking like that. Maybe if they're organizing a skate shop or something like that, and that's not a big clientele. So it just it's like obvious to me, and because I'm a girl, that's the lens I'm looking at things out of. And I don't expect everybody to do that, but I felt like I'm a voice to make that happen for other people too, for other girls or whatever, or at that time in my career.
When you were riding for Burton, so you left Sims and went to Burton eventually and got a pro model there. And they've been doing a lot of amazing things lately through the lens of kind of equality and women's empowerment. And Donna is CEO, which is so awesome. At that time, what was it like riding for them? And did you feel you had a powerful ally in Gayleen at Sims? Did you have advocates at Burton too?
Yeah, I did, and it was with Eric Koch, who's a man, and he I think really saw the value I brought to Burton, and then Burton was so valuable to me because they're such a great professional big brand that they did so much for my career to help my career, and I think I helped them expand their women's market too. Together we, I think, did a lot for women's snowboarding. But I had guys in the company that really respected my career and my value. Like I always felt like I had an advocate there. There weren't too many women, especially in marketing, that were in there. And Donna at that time had her own business. And so she wasn't she was obviously a part of Burton every step of the way, but she wasn't like CEO, like, she is now and president or CEO. But of course, Jake is so respectful was so respectful of women, and he has Donna as a backbone, and she's a very big force for pushing women's snowboarding and equality for women. But I felt like I had my career, I had advocates within the company to really help me pursue what exactly I wanted to do. Yeah, it was great.
It's cool to watch that company as well as others today starting to really, invest in kind of the icons and more legacy athletes. And didn't they just re-release your Dolphin Pro model?
They did, yeah.
Talk about that and what's going on there and how that all came to be.
Yeah, so the Dolphin board came out in '96, and I left Sims, and I talked to Gayleen. That was a whole nother story, but she was very supportive and understood why I left. And then I wasn't going to go to Burton without a pro model. And so the Burton Dolphin was my first pro model with Burton, and Burton's first women's pro model. And that board was so fun. We had to put that together last minute, like the graphics and everything. And I live in Encinitas, lived at the time in Encinitas in the summer, and I would surf with like the dolphins. The dolphins were like jumping in the waves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my inspiration. I want a dolphin graphic. And so I worked really like so much with the Burton Design crew, like JG, he doesn't work for Burton anymore, but he's like the Yoda board designer, So when I first got to Burton, they're like, what kind of board do you want? And I said, I have no idea how to design a board. I know how to do the graphics. I never worked with the designers before. And so they pretty much put me through a boot camp and taught me everything about a board design, different types. And I went to Mount Hood and tested a bunch of boards, and JG helped me like with the testing process, what to look for, what to feel, how to give them feedback. And we came up with the dolphin shape, and it was the most innovative shape at that time for a woman. It was the first time a woman's worked with the designers, and we came up with the shape. Well, they re-released the board last year, 2023, and it's my favorite board. It still rides.
It stands the test of time.
That shape stands the test of time, and it's a really awesome board, shape, design, everything. It's in the Smithsonian as it's a change the game exhibit, and it's with Sherman Poppins Snurfer.
Yeah,
and then
wow.
It's like another Burton board, the backhill, I think, and then the dolphin board. So it just kind of happened like that. It's like, oh, we'll just come up with this board. Well, it ends up being a killer board forever. But
And you knew what you liked out of snowboards. You just maybe didn't have the kind of words to put towards it. So it's cool they took the time to kind of, work
Yeah.
with you to get it out of you and
Yeah, it is.
give you the language to say, like, here's what I want to ride.
yeah, I so appreciate that, because they could have been like, oh, we'll just come up with something. Because I would have been like, I can pretty much ride anything at that time. I just got used to whatever I was riding. But this was like, no, we want you to design this board. And the fact that they did that changed a lot of things, I think, in board design for women, for the boards I rode.
Gave us a voice.
Yeah, and I was like, well, some people were like, a board doesn't know if you're a man or a woman, but there's so much more to having a board designed by a woman than that. It just gives you voice. It does a lot for women. You come up with a different shape. It's unique.
Mm-hmm. And even just involving athletes in the process to begin with. And then, of course, you want to involve the athlete who you're making the board for. So it just feels like a no-duh kind of.
Yeah, so at that time, I was like, oh, no big deal. But looking back, I see, like, those were really important processes that happened that I definitely took it for granted. I was like, oh, everybody's doing this. No, they weren't. And I can't believe I got to be part of that. So it's pretty cool.
I'm curious, it feels, I have a sort of a hypothesis about, I feel like, when we were around, there was a lot fewer women and in the sport of snowboarding. And so it might have been, while you were creating a lot of firsts, it may have been easier to kind of claim some of the attention, and the generation that came maybe after us or a little closer on our heels, it became a little harder because there was more of them, and each company still just had their like one token woman on, and so there was a lot more almost competition. So do you agree with that, or did you see any of that, or maybe you weren't paying attention by then, but does any of that ring true to you? Or?
Yeah, it does. Totally. I retired in 2005. I had my first son in 2003. And then I tried to keep the dream alive with the two little babies, because I had 2003 baby, 2004 baby. And then I was like, oh no, I just can't do this. So I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a mom full time. And, but I really lost a lot of that era of women's snowboarding because I was just raising my kids. But I would kind of pop in, here and there and check in to see what the industry is doing. And I felt like we had collectively, I'm not saying me, but it was like all the girls, like Barrett, Michelle, Cersei, Tina, Trish, like this big movement, a big movement, a big push for women's snowboarding, and we're just like promoting it and talking about it and come on girls and getting the girls involved. And then I felt like it was like a lost generation of snowboarders almost. I could be wrong because I was like raising kids, so what do I know? But I felt like it's almost like they had everything built up for them, but they didn't push the women's snowboard thing. It was just like, now I get to like, I don't know.
Well, I think there was just other challenges for them because
Yeah,
then it
maybe.
became, there was just so much more
You're right.
competition.
Yeah,
there was
that's what you're
more
saying.
women, and then it's kind of like it has to be the follow through has to come from the industry too.
True.
In a way, so maybe that's where the energy just didn't keep up. Not to say there was so much progression and awesome things happening in snowboarding, like in the early 2000s and things. But I wonder if for some of the women then it was almost harder to, get a pro model or get a video part, get a spot on a film crew. Or I just know there was a lot of struggle there because still companies were like, we only want one of you,
Right.
and when there's more women competing for the one spot, it
makes
just took a
sense.
while. It really
I think
took
it
a
makes
while.
sense. Yeah, it's like, I agree with you. Totally. I think it's a good perspective you have. It's just the growing pains. I think you're right. It's like now there's a competition and we only have so much. And yeah, then they're competing against each other, not maybe helping this whole movement go up to this next level thing. But then the progression was getting, all the girls were progressing on this whole other level.
And women had to kind of go off on their own and be like, all right, we'll do our own film crew
Yeah.
so it's so cool now to watch the women. Like, are there any kind of what's your perspective on, what are the exciting things you're seeing in the next generation of snowboarders, man or woman?
Well, the progression is very exciting. I cannot believe women can do this. Like, I put myself in their place and I'm like, this seems impossible. It seems impossible what they're doing and what they're capable of. So I am really interested in hearing like their mindset, how they train. Like, I want to know like how they train and how they progress to this level because it's scary. It's death defying. And I really love listening to, people go on the bomb hole, like Mia Brooks. Is it Mia Brooks?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Her bomb hole was hilarious. I loved it.
So good.
I was dying laughing. And she's just like, whatever, just crank up the hardcore metal Hesher music and just like,
It's so cool how there's just so many different types of women now, like there's something, there's something to be into for everyone. And it's so multifaceted and, it's not just one way to look at anything. So I love that about it too.
I love watching the women right now and they all are so cool to me. Like they look cool. They're super professional.
Yeah, they like get it. Like they're grown up, they're precocious. They know that like, hey, this is a job. I need to take it seriously.
Yeah, they're well spoken. They
Yeah.
just seem like way, way cool. And what inspiration. I feel like they are so inspirational to me.
You mentioned, you took some time for yourself and to have kids and focus on them, but you're back, baby. Like it feels like you're
back, baby. No, I'm just
riding
kidding.
more than ever and reclaiming all your banger tricks. And I'm curious, like why now? What's powering that?
I think I am so single focused. So when I had my career, I was single minded, single focused, had kids. I focused on them, my family. Like this is what I want to do. And then they grew up. My two boys are 19 and 21. And I'm like, they don't want me around because I'm a mom. They love me. I love them. They're adults.
It's
and
the
that's
natural,
the way
yeah,
should
fly
be.
the nest,
Yeah, fly out, fly free. And I'm so stoked. I feel like something just switched to me where I can focus on me and it's okay. And I love snowboarding so much that it's really strange. It feels like when I first learned, like I love it. And I want to learn. And I went up to Hood this summer and I want to go back. I can't wait to go back. I wasn't there long enough, except that
It looks so fun.
so
Your guys'
fun,
session
and
you had, yeah.
it was so much fun, and like I want to learn. I want to learn new tricks and new stuff, and like going off the airbag. I was like, this is cool. Oh my gosh, I love like landing in an airbag to try something, and
New tools for progression.
yeah, I was
you
like,
can
this is awesome. And then just seeing like the young kids and doing the world quarter pipe event. Slush Magazine invited me to that world quarter pipe event. That was nuts. But the crew the riders there were like the coolest kids ever. And I'm like 30 years older than them. And
Do they know who you were?
the girls, I knew maybe 2 people just from being at like Burton demos and stuff. 2 kids that were competing. I was like, hey, buddy.
That's wild. It used to be, you used to know everyone, and it's interesting. to
That's
kinda
a
come
whole
back.
story, I feel like. But because I didn't know anyone, and I'm like showing up this event, I'm like, I don't know anyone. Whoa, this is weird. But the girls came up to me and introduced themselves, and they're like, hey, Shannon, I just want to tell you, or just thank you for all you've done in snowboarding. I'm like, really?
Wow.
I just was like tearing up, like, really? Like, I thought,
It's got to feel so good.
like, I just feel like a nobody. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. That's what I'm thinking. And then I don't know anybody. I feel like super insecure because I don't know anybody, and I'm 50 hiking this thing. And they're like, my name's so-and-so, and I just really look up to you. And I'm like, thank you. Oh my gosh, you're so nice. And then
it comes full circle.
the guys up there were so nice and like cool. And I saw a lot of them at Hood, and we're like, everyone that went to that event was like bonded somehow, because the guys doing the event also were like, this thing's gnarly. They were talking amongst themselves, and I'm overhearing them, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad they're saying
just
that,
me.
because it's the gnarliest thing I've ever hit, and I don't know why I agreed to this thing. I'm gonna embarrass myself here. So it's pretty challenging, and it was really fun. I'm really glad Pat Bridges asked me to do that event, because that pushed me way out of my comfort zone. And I kind of just, after he invited me by email, and I thought it was a spam email, and I almost deleted it. And then I contacted him. I was like, I got this email. Is this for me, or is like, did you make a mistake? Why did you invite me? No.
What a total imposter syndrome, but
Yeah.
it's like, no, you're Shannon, you're invited.
And he's like, I really think you could do it. There's not many quarter pipes that people get to ride these days. So it almost levels the playing field. And I think you
true.
can do it. And I was like, well, I'm not going to say no. That would be like the lamest thing ever if I thought that I just couldn't do something. I'm going to say yes. But then the time came to actually show up, and the night before I was like, I couldn't even sleep. I was like, what the heck did I sign up for? Because I looked to see how big it was the night before, and it was a monstrosity.
Where was it? Mammoth?
At Mammoth, yeah.
Well, we're at a cool time in our sport, I feel like. I mean, just the multi-generational thing is so special, to be able to have like all the generations out riding on the same, just mixing and mingling is really cool, I think.
It's really cool. I love this new generation of snowboarders. Like I said, I think they're so just really cool, respectful people that are really nice girls and guys, and I really like who they are, and it's fun to see and ride with them and meet. Like, I met Zoe at the World Quarter Pipe event, and
Zoe's
I was like,
so incredible.
you're my hero.
Yeah,
So I'm so glad to meet you.
yeah, truly the next you, It's
Way
cool.
more than me. Way more.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon.
Yeah.
This was so fun, and it was great to see you, and I love getting to see you out and about again now. So, yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jen. Love this. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.